This is the early morning. It's just a little after 4 a.m. A clip put up by Legal AF. Michael Wolff breaks his silence after Bombshell Epstein email release. Now, this clip's around 54 minutes long. I'll play around 15, 16 minutes of it, depending on what I hear. You'll have the link to listen to it through its entirety. This is put up by Sidney Blumenthal, so let's have a listen.
Welcome to the Court of History. I am Sidney Blumenthal. The court is now in session. I am here with my colleague, Sean Valenza of Princeton University. Sean is an incredibly erudite scholar, as many of you know. But I wonder, Sean, if you've read the stories of Arthur Conan Doyle on Sherlock Holmes.
Well, I've read a number of them. Yeah, go ahead.
What are you doing with this? Many of them. Particularly one summer, I was at a summer camp, and one of them is called "The Adventure of Silver Blaze."
Now, that's one I've not read, so you're going to have to fill me in.
Yeah, it's about a racehorse, and the Scotland Yard detective comes. And he says to Sherlock Holmes, "Is there any point to which you wish to draw to my attention?" And Holmes says, "To the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime." And the detective says, "The dog did nothing in the nighttime?" And Holmes says, "That was the curious incident."
Right.
So
the dog that didn't bark.
The dog that didn't bark. Well, right. As it happens, we're dealing with a case of the dog that didn't bark, and that is referenced by none other than Jeffrey Epstein in an email that was revealed yesterday, an email that he sent to Ghislaine Maxwell. And he says on April 2nd, 2011, to Ghislaine Maxwell, "I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump." And then the name of a victim is redacted. It's assumed it might be Virginia Giuffre. And it says, "Victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there." And Maxwell replies in an email, "I've been thinking about that." So we're dealing with a context here where the government shutdown is ended. Some people call it the Epstein shutdown because House Speaker Mike Johnson refused to swear in Representative Adelita Grijalva of Arizona because she would be the 218th and final vote on the discharge petition to force the House to vote on a measure requiring the Department of Justice to release the Epstein files. And the Democrats, as soon as the shutdown ended, released 3 emails. And one of them was about the dog that did not bark in the night. What's your general?
Well, it's one of those. I mean, how many ways can you fill in the empty spaces in those emails? I mean, what possibly could they be referring to? It's all very damning. I mean, the fact that Trump spent hours with this victim. I mean, okay, what were they doing? Were they playing checkers? I doubt it. It takes a certain degree of supposition, but not a lot. That this just closes in on the president much more with each passing time. It was interesting that it took them this long to get the emails out, but that's another issue. They're there, and we have to consider them.
Yeah, these are from the Epstein estate and not the Epstein files that the government holds. The government holds hundreds of thousands of documents right now. 2 of the emails are between the journalist Michael Wolff and Jeffrey Epstein. They're really interesting emails, and rather than you and I discuss them, why don't we talk to Michael Wolff about them? He is the author and journalist. He's received 2 National Magazine Awards. He's a biographer of Donald Trump, Rupert Murdoch. He's written many insightful books. Lately, All or Nothing on the 2024 presidential campaign. He's the host of the Inside Trump's Head podcast. Welcome, Michael.
Sidney, nice to see you.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Great to see you.
Before we discuss the dog that doesn't bark email, let's talk about your emails first.
My world famous emails.
Yeah, they certainly are. They're the subject of much sensation. So in one of them, in January 2019, Jeffrey Epstein writes you, and he says about Trump, of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop.
Write this date down.
Yeah.
So what did he know about the girls, and why does he want Ghislaine to stop, and stop what exactly?
You know, I can't remember what the Ghislaine reference there is. Although I just got it. Sitting here, I just got it. Okay, so at that point, Ghislaine is pursuing a lawsuit, stupidly, actually, pursuing a lawsuit with Virginia Giuffre. And that is, and I'm literally just at this moment do I remember that. And that has not worked out well for Ghislaine, because I think, as I recall, Virginia Giuffre countersued, and there's lots of depositions, and Ghislaine will have to testify, and that will mean that she will have to testify about all of this, including about quite possibly about Trump. So that's what that's about. As for him knowing about the girls, that's a direct reference to what Trump knew about what was going on at Jeffrey Epstein's house. And it goes back to a couple of things. I've talked here before about the photographs that I've seen of Trump and around Epstein's pool with a set of the girls who were often at Epstein's house. But then there was also Epstein's view that it was Trump who first alerted the police to what was going on, the Palm Beach police, to what was going on at Epstein's house. So this was always a thing, and this was a thing that I prodded Epstein on, because I thought it was a smoking gun. Did he know what was going on at Epstein's house? If so, why did he keep quiet about it? And if he knew, what was the nature of how he knew, et cetera, et cetera. And, throughout my discussions with Epstein about Trump, it was always, you have the goods here. You have the power to cause Trump an enormous amount of trouble and possibly to bring him down. Actually, jumping 6 years later, that may in fact be what is happening now.
Yeah,
from the grave, as it were.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack in what you just said, but let's go to the next email first. This email is from December 2015. And Trump has announced he's running for president in 2016. And you explained to Jeffrey Epstein that CNN is likely to ask Trump about his relationship with him. And Epstein asks you what you thought Trump would answer. And you reply, and I'm going to quote you, "I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, you can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, or if it looks like you could win, you could save him generating a debt. Now, let me comment first, and then let you comment. This advice turns out to be remarkably prescient and deeply ironic. It turns out that Trump did lie. You assumed he would lie, and Epstein assumed he would lie. And when he was eventually asked about his relationship with Epstein, and of course it's ironic because Epstein, as we know, hanged himself, and Trump is hanging himself by lying, as you suggested. So what is your thought now on that email?
Well, I think the context was, and again, as I said before, I was trying, and that was at a moment when you could still look at the Trump candidacy and not take it very seriously. But there were reasons to begin to take it more seriously. And I, among many people, was increasingly alarmed about this and understood that the one person who had the potential to damage this candidacy was Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not the only person who understood that. I think I've said before here that when I was with Steve Bannon when he met Jeffrey Epstein in 2017, and the first thing that Bannon said to Epstein was, "You were the only person I was afraid of during the campaign." So he had this. Trump's candidacy is continuing on. It's unlikely that he would get to the end, but it's unlikely that he would have gotten as far as it had gotten by this point. I was trying to encourage Epstein to use what information he had to get Trump. And in this instance, that would have been an interesting way to approach this. Let Trump publicly tell a lie, then expose the lie. Now, Epstein, and this is because he would go back and forth, and I think he would entertain this possibility that he could do this. But at the same time, Epstein was, without a doubt, very much afraid of Donald Trump. So, in the end, I never got, we can get to that. In the end, I think that he was starting to get to this point that he might publicly talk about this relationship, but then he was arrested and died.
Yeah, you raised the question of Epstein's fear of Trump, and yet Epstein himself had leverage over Trump by his own knowledge. So this is two scorpions in a bottle, as it were.
You would think, and that's what I always thought. But he always was, and this is a marked impression that I had of his fear of Donald Trump. That Donald Trump was a man capable of doing anything, who would do anything, and this was actually Epstein. Epstein believed Donald Trump should not be president, not just because he knew nothing about governing, but because he was pernicious in so many ways. Or as Epstein said once, and it kind of gave you a shiver because this is coming from Epstein, but he said Trump has no scruples.
He said that to you?
Yes. So this is coming from a man who is now the poster child for having no scruples.
Do you remember the context in which he told you that?
We had long discussions about Donald Trump. So, at this point, I am already, I'm in the middle of probably writing my first book about Trump, and using Epstein frequently as a source. And to this day, there are few people who I think are as insightful about Trump as Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. Let me read to you another email that came out yesterday. And this is an email that Jeffrey Epstein writes to himself on February 1st, 2019. Quote, Trump knew of it and came to my house many times during that period. And then he adds, he never got a massage. So he knew of it and he never got a massage. And yet Epstein knew a lot about Trump's relationships with women and his sexual assaults. And he had spent many years with him involved with women that did not involve a massage. But, what does he think?
What is he saying there? Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, other than the fact that he knew of it, and I assume that he knew what was going on at Epstein's house, and he was fully he knew about Epstein's sexual tastes. He knew about the constant ingoings of young women, young girls at Epstein's house. He understood the interests of his close friend Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah. Now there's another email that came out as well. It's in 2015, and it's to the then New York Times financial reporter Landon Thomas Jr., who is asking about stories, and Epstein writes him, have them ask my houseman about Donald almost walking through the door, leaving his nose print on the glass, as young women were swimming in the pool and he was so focused he walked straight into the door. And in another email he writes, there are photos of Donald and girls in bikinis in my kitchen. And he urges Thomas, I am a serious man for the good of the nation. Why not try to get some of this out there? Now, the New York Times and Thomas never get that story. And there's a story that's published in May of 2016 called Crossing the Line, How Donald Trump Behaved with Women in Private in the New York Times. Long story. And there's no mention of Jeffrey Epstein.
I'm going to stop it at the 17-minute mark. I'll probably do this in a couple of parts because obviously it's got me intrigued. The first part is Bombshell Epstein email release tightens noose around Trump's neck, part 1. Stand by for part 2.